GC here, and we're back. Welcome 2015. I will make an official welcome 2015, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, 1,000 subscribers, oh my goodness, video later on. But right now I gotta play catch up and film all these reviews that I've been like lagging behind. So without further ado, a movie review. The 100-Foot Journey. Directed by Lasse Hallström and also produced by Steven Spielberg and Oprah Winfrey. And it's based on The 100-Foot Journey by Richard C. Morais. And it stars Helen Mirren, Puri, Manish Dayal, and Charlotte Lebon, and everybody else, check down below. So what's it about? Well, basically, The 100-Foot Journey really is talking about a French restaurant on one side of a street and an Indian restaurant on the other side of the street. The Kadam family has been running a restaurant business back in Mumbai, and they moved to France. And they set up shop right beside Helen Mirren's shop, who has 2 Michelin stars. Or 1, I forgot. But basically the entire film is talking about the cultural differences in food, social etiquette and life, and just food and family and difference, and how they sort of reconcile, or how do they put up with it, or what have you. And that's basically the entire film. So what did I think? Well, coming off The Lunchbox, which was a first-time directorial debut of a director filming a food movie in India, and legit all Indian. And now we have an Indian family restaurant directed by a Swedish director and starring Helen Mirren. I was like, hey, it's bringing sort of like the whiteness or the European taste and sort of mixing it out with the whole Indian thing. And I was like, hey, I'm totally interested, and I checked it out. And yeah, I watched it because I heard good things from people, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it somewhat for what it was. Obviously, it cannot be compared to The Lunchbox. I value that movie much higher than this one. But I appreciate what they're trying to pull. There are interesting things happening, food things, like it's a good display of food knowledge and how a kitchen, restaurant, Michelin thing is run. And somewhat the relationships are interesting. The entire premise is interesting for sure, but clearly for me, what the movie could have been was not what the movie was. So basically my biggest gripe with this movie is the relational sort of chemistry between the entire cast. Helen Mirren is like flat, dead centered in the poster, clearly saying that she's the main character, but I felt they were trying to push Puri into the main cast, and then his dad sort of shows up in the back, and it's like, what is happening here? And then the relationships gets even more convoluted as Puri meets up with the French girl, and they sort of like try to hook up or something, and they have a relationship going on, and then Helen Mirren comes in with the dad, and they try to have like a competition friendship relationship happening. So it's like, who's the real main character here? And for me, that was the biggest thing. It just didn't feel right in terms of just the narrative or the pacing. And basically, it was an interesting premise, like I said, but it could have been so much better if they just tried to focus on, Puri and his, like, advancement into craziness, and develop him a lot more. Because it felt like they were trying to develop the restaurant, the cultural stuff, and the personal relationship with everybody at the same time, and it was just really, maybe too many things to juggle, and it just didn't feel like it was centered on anything in particular. And now in terms of food, seriously, this movie for me is sort of like on a chef level, as in there wasn't much food for a food-related film. I mean, sure, this movie here started with a lot of food in the beginning, and as it get with the relational stuff, it's sort of like, okay, let's forget about the food, let's talk about relationship, and it just didn't feel, I don't know, I felt I was like here for the cuisine, and it just didn't really deliver for me. And yeah, the whole juggling act, and just felt everything was just really like, oh, here we go, let's go to this, let's go to that. And it just felt very confusing as to what they were trying to really push. And there's a lot of suspense of disbelief here, as Puri's character isn't written in a way where it's like grounded in terms of his like genius with food. So it's sort of like, oh, okay. I thought it was trying to be like a realistic approach as to how an Indian family would sort of, you know, adapt to this French landscape, and especially 100 feet away from a crazy French restaurant. And I was really hoping for more cultural context, cultural development, how they're gonna develop their characters and just character study in terms of how do they like, whoa, Indian people here across from our French restaurant. They did that a bit, and they sort of like just went away very easily, and I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, beyond that, this movie is an interesting premise. Like I said, the whole Indian cross French thing happening here, it was interesting. That's what drew me in the first place. And I guess it was just not what I wanted. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this movie review for 100 Foot Journey. If you have seen this, leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And that is all for this movie review for 100 Foot Journey. Out.